If you've been playing the guitar for quite a while now and you still feel like you absolutely suck, that will be because you've been doing things with no structure and no logic. What we're going to talk about in this video is what you need to do to actually get to where you want to be. First things first, I don't care what all these online gurus are telling you now about the fact that you don't need scales and all of this. That is a load of absolute dog shit. If you don't know your fretboard and you want to play modern rock and fusion style guitar solos, you're fucked, basically. Not knowing your fretboard is absolutely like pissing in the wind. It's ridiculous. I'm not saying that you need to spend the rest of your life practicing scales or anything boring like that, but you do need to get this shit down so that you can start using it. Once you're using it, then you don't need to keep practicing it anymore, you just use it. Think about it the same way as the alphabet, okay? You don't think about practicing the alphabet every day, but you would be absolutely fucked if you didn't know the letters of the alphabet. Imagine you're in a situation where you just got a really cool text off of a super hot girl. You've been trying to pull her for ages. She sends you a text message and she's like, she wants to go out on a date with you or whatever, and you're like, oh, I can't read it because I don't even know the alphabet. Fucking stupid mentality. So here's how we're going to get our fretboard in order. First things first, you've got to know the notes. If you don't know the notes, you'll be looking at a chord chart or you'll be looking at a backing track that you want to jam over on YouTube and you just don't know where to start. So anywhere that you put your hand on the fretboard, so if I was running my hand up and down the guitar neck right now and I said stop randomly, bam, I'm here, I'd want to be able to look at the fretboard and know instantly what the notes are. So under my first finger, right here, I've got a G sharp. I know that there's a G sharp, an octave above it here, and there's another one here. In any position around that, I can name all of the notes. That means that I can find all of the chords, all of the arpeggios, all of the scales that I want, anything like that. Once you know the notes on the neck, that leads us on to the next thing. You need a system for being able to play up and down the fretboard accurately. I don't care whether you want to do caged or 3 notes per string or anything like that. You just need a system where it all makes sense to you. What I think is the absolute best thing to do is to take the best of both worlds, all of the good things about caged, all of the good things about 3 notes per string, and combine them together. What makes caged really good is that you basically outline your chords and your arpeggios and your intervals all in one place. So if I'm playing, for example, a G major chord just here, because of the cage system, I can see where there's a G major pentatonic scale. I can see where there's a G major 7 arpeggio. I can see where there's a G triad. I can see where there's a full G major scale. Inside that major scale, I can see where all the intervals are. So I've got root 2, root 3, root 4, root 5, root 6, root 7, octave. You can do that in both octaves, etc. Being able to see all of that information on the fretboard gives you creative commands to be able to play licks, lines, runs, whatever it is you want to do. I also think 3 notes per string is a really, really valid system. 3 notes per string has one issue in that it takes you away from the chords. If you're playing over a G major 7, the shape of the G major scale in 3 notes per string takes you away from your chord. So I've ended up over here, nowhere near the chord. So I'm not visualizing the intervals and everything for phrasing and stuff like that. But from a technical perspective, let's say if I'm playing fast alternate picked runs, something like this, 3 notes per string really facilitates that really well. So like I say, combine the best of both worlds. Learn the cage system and learn 3 notes per string. Throw away the things that are no good about each system, keep the things that are good about it, and combine the two. There's also some other really important ways that you want to be able to see your fretboard, like along the length of strings, okay? So if I take my G major scale that I was just looking at again, along the length of the high E string, it looks like this. I could keep that going all the way up to here if I wanted to, but that's besides the point. When you can see the scale along the length of a string or along the length of 2 strings or 3 strings, whatever, that opens up something called linear motion. That's what I call it, linear motion. It means that you can play licks and lines and runs that move all the way along the length of a string. For example, if I had a motif that sounded and looked like this, I could play that all the way along the whole fretboard because I can see all of the entire G major scale. The last way that you want to be able to see the fretboard for melodic playing like that is to use combination playing. That means using positional stuff like 3 notes per string. and the stuff where you're playing along the length of strings so that you can take ideas that move in a combination of vertical and lateral motion like this. By doing that sort of thing, you can use vast swathes of the fretboard in your licks, lines, runs, your phrasing, whatever it is that you want to do. Other areas that you want to make sure that you want to know all the chords relative to the cage positions, you want to know all of the arpeggios, and you want to know all your triads. You also want to be able to do your triads in 3-string inversions like this. Basically, learning all of this stuff about your fretboard is giving you loads of colours to your palette. Don't be trusting those dudes that are telling you don't learn scales and all that stuff, because they're just full of shit. If you follow a structured path to get all of your fretboard knowledge down together, it should take you no longer than a year. That might sound like ages to a lot of people, but let's be honest, learning to play an instrument does take a long time. If you can get all of your fretboard knowledge together in 1 year, it's really no biggie. Most of the people that I've taught in my career as a guitar teacher, they don't know all of that stuff after playing the guitar for 20 years. Imagine if they'd have just learned all of that stuff in their first year of playing, 20 years later they'd be an amazing guitar player. Instead, because they've basically been lazy and haven't been working on things with structure and logic, and because they've been falling for this trap where people have been telling them they don't need to learn all of that stuff, they've just wasted a whole load of time. So don't be that guy. The next area that I would really focus on is your technique. Now, you don't necessarily have to go off and be a world-class shredder, play super fast if that's not what you want to do. Anything that you're going to play requires some level of technique. If it's lead guitar playing that you specifically want to look at, I would start with playing legato. That means using hammer-ons, pull-offs, slides, that sort of thing. So hammer-ons, slides. Legato just allows you to play smooth and connected. Sounds pleasant to most people's ear for that hammer-on, pull-off kind of tonality. And also on the guitar, if you do want to play faster, legato is probably the easiest way to be able to do it. The next thing I'd work on is your alternate picking. I would do the legato stuff first, because that way you prepare your fretting hand to be able to insert information to it with your picking hand. Doing exercises where you just run through 3 strings of 3 notes per string like this. Are really good for building up your alternate picking. You can also do the old famous Paul Gilbert thing like this. Next area I would look at is sweep picking, and the reason I think all guitar players should look at sweep picking is because it's an efficient way to play arpeggios, especially triads. So if I take an A minor triad like this, and then play a G major triad next door, if I just cycle around the 2 of those, in terms of the picking, the most efficient way is to sweep it. So what I'm doing here is downstrokes on the A minors, little upstroke there for that E note, downstroke again here for the D, then up all the way through that G major. I've got a cycle. Sweep picking gets a bad rep because people think that you just have to play blazing fast. I'm not playing fast here. It's just if you want to add intervallic leaps using triads into your music, it's a very efficient way to be able to do them. You can also use string skips like this. That's another way to add triads into your music, which you can use a more sort of legato, alternate picking based approach. Finally, what I would tell all of my students to do is also add tapping. Now, the reason why you want to add tapping is because it just basically offers you a way of being able to play wide stretches. If you don't want to play like the old school Van Halen style of tapping and whatever, that's absolutely fine. You don't need to do that. But here's something that you could do with tapping that would sound really interesting just with the most basic bog standard scale you've ever seen. So, A minor pentatonic. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play that much of A minor pentatonic, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to also tap E minor pentatonic, so that's a 5th above. What this is going to allow me to do is get a very cool intervallic bubbly sound. If I wanted to get those really wide fifth intervals without using that tapping technique, it would just be really, really hard to do. So just see tapping as the answer to the wide stretches conundrum that we have on the guitar. Of course, what I would say to anybody who's using any of these techniques, find what works for you and throw away the things that you don't need. They're just the recommended things that I would say to anyone who's been taking lessons with me that wants to play like technical rock fusion players. So if you're into Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, Guthrie Govan, Jason Becker, Paul Gilbert, those kind of players, these are all the techniques that those guys can use. So if you want to play like that, you've got to learn that stuff too. Finally, the last area that you should explore, which you'll end up doing for the rest of your guitar playing life, is developing musical vocabulary. So what you will have done at this point, you'd have spent maybe 12 months learning your fretboard and building your technique, okay? For the rest of your life, you take that fretboard knowledge and that technique and you turn that into licks, runs, lines and vocabulary that you can use over any of your favourite backing tracks at any point. Devise for yourself a musical style that you can be known for, which means that you will be able to play in your bands, go and do gigs, all of that sort of stuff, and have a style that people like. Or if you're just the kind of person that plays for yourself, rather than sitting there with a whole limited load of things, looking at your guitar going, I wish I was a better guitar player, you'll actually be able to fire up YouTube, put on your favourite backing tracks and be able to play all night long, getting enjoyment out of your hobby. There's a lot of people out there that think it's only worth investing in guitar lessons because you're going to play in a band or go on stage or something like that. And that's also absolute bullshit. If you want to just sit at home on your own and never ever play to a live audience at any point in your whole life, that's absolutely fine, and it's okay to want to be good at it. It seems absolutely ridiculous that people would spend £3,000 on a guitar. They'd probably buy something like a Quad Cortex or a Line 6 Helix, which is going to cost them another 1,500 quid or £2,000 or something like that, and then they're going to sit there and have no vocabulary, no knowledge, and they can't play, and they're just going to suck at playing the instrument. In all honesty, what is the fucking point of that? You might as well have bought a PlayStation and sat there twiddling away playing Call of Duty, pretending to be a fucking soldier running around the desert killing people. Not my idea of fun at all. I wanted to get good at playing one of these. So whether you're the kind of player who wants to just sit at home and play for themselves and enjoy playing music on the guitar, or you want to be in bands out there gigging, recording, making your own music or what have you, check out the links in the description box below, because I have a free course that you can take that puts all of this into a context for you, shows you exactly what you need to do. And honestly, you will get results. I've taught thousands of people over the years working in schools, colleges and all the rest of it that I've done. If I can learn to play and those people can all learn to play, so can you. Don't sit at home thinking about getting better at the guitar, just start fucking doing it right now. If you're not ready to do my course yet, YouTube knows something else that I've made that will help you out massively. It's popped up somewhere on your screen right now. Check that video out and I will see you in your next guitar lesson.